Greetings. I'm dressed up like a film director. With your hat turned around. Because I'd like to review 13 Hours in Benghazi, the movie. Michael Bay. Explosion Fest, Michael Bay. Yeah. There was a preview review on one of the blogger channels before all the reviewers did it. And yeah, so now I'm going to review it having seen it. The preview, only seen trailers and other people's reviews. Now I've actually seen the movie. And actually the preview is pretty much what happened in the movie. Yeah, so let's get into it then. And then look up the little gritty details later from the blog. It's a Paramount picture, and it's Michael Bay. It's classic sort of jingoistic, the soldiers in the army are awesome thing going on around, even if they're contract soldiers. Ex-soldiers who have become contractors. It was around September the 11th in 2012. 2012 was a weird year for the whole planet because of all the fringe stuff. But yeah, September 11th. And yeah, so, and around then, apparently these contractors had been there for several months. And then stuff went down on that night. And it just happened to be September 11th. In Benghazi, which is the second most important city in Libya, the other one being Tripoli. Gaddafi had been overthrown. I actually did a report on Libya many years ago during the San Jose State years, 2008. Also, the silly Trek character, the Libyan, was supposedly Libyan. But that was just a play on her name. I wasn't making fun of Libya. Her name was Libby. Anyway, so she wasn't Libyan in any way. She was very white. The Benghazi movie is based on the 13 Hours book. And in the movie it's called The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, 13 Hours. The classic Michael Bayisms are there. You have the hot car here or there. You have the car chase to there. You have Mercedes that something happens and gets set on fire. You have all of the the chasey stuff, all the tense cuts and all that stuff. And very Michael Bay classic sort of war picture. He was definitely going for Zero Dark 30 meets Black Hawk Down meets Hurt Locker and any number of other movies. He doesn't really go into the details of what happened in Benghazi, even though the Fox people seem to imagine this movie vindicates their conspiracy about Benghazi, which it doesn't. It doesn't really vindicate anything. It just basically, it's Benghazi. There's 6 guys, and they go in as contractors. They're assigned to this military sort of CIA installation. It's not an embassy; it's a CIA installation. It's a spook house essentially. Call it a consulate, but it's a spook house. Yeah. Which makes it curious that any of them can go on later and write a book about it. Because if it actually was a CIA annexed consulate, nothing that goes on in the CIA should be mentioned ever. Yeah, because you're in the CIA, even if you're a contractor, you don't talk about it. So I'm wondering how they got clearance to even have a book to talk about it. Especially if the government messed up as badly as they indicated it did in the movie. So apparently this understaffed consulate building, which was essentially a palace that had been taken over, it is bad security. The locals are supposed to be the security, but they run off, and of course stuff goes down. And the other bad guys, there's like warring tribes all over the city. They storm the building and set it on fire. And basically pretty much the narrative of the book, as well as the narrative of the the movie and the alleged conspiracy indicates that that there wasn't enough security because the Libyans said they would be the security. Only the Libyans weren't very good. So, at security. So, that was the end of that. So, that's what happened. Yeah, so a lot of screw-ups here and there. Snafus, as they say. Snafus. That stands for situation all fucked up. Snafu. Situation normal, all fucked up. Yeah, so it was fucked up. But yeah, so Michael Bay makes his G.I. Joe-like action picture. Yeah, going in and makes these contractors' office perfectly chiseled Hollywood men with exercising with their shirts off, brawny and muscly and yeah, there's nothing whatsoever homoerotic about these characters. Yeah, Michael Bay. I'm just saying, Michael. Just come out of the closet. Just do it. We get it, okay? But okay, you're bi. But still, but yeah, it's like chiseled men, which is fine. But does he overcompensate for something? But yeah, the premise and the movie go together. There's sort of a disconnect of the intelligence and whatnot. Ambassador Stevens comes into the picture before the raid happens. He gets to stay at the house, basically. Ambassador Stevens is the ambassador to Iran. Don't know why he would be staying in the consulate, not the embassy, which confused later news broadcasts, saying it was the embassy. It was the consulate. Why would he go there? It's not safe. He shouldn't go there. But anyway, yeah, so he does. And there he is. So, yeah. And naturally it gets attacked. And in fact, the telegraphing of it getting attacked in the movie, as a movie, is so really obvious Michael Bay that he's like from a mile away, look, the security's really bad here. Let's mention it again. The security's really bad here. Let's have the lackey back at the base, have him say, well, the security's really bad here, but I can't do nothing about it. But the security's really bad here. Something could happen. You say it like 5 or 6 times. It's like, okay, we get it. You didn't need to say it 5 or 6 times. And then things end up being bad. It ends up getting attacked and set on fire by the locals, and Stevens gets trapped in the special room, and him and his bodyguard, I guess, they die from the smoke inhalation, and then the attackers flee. It's in the movie. I'm just going over the movie, and then the attackers continue, and they follow the other guys back to the base, essentially the base, the CIA spook base thing, next to the consulate by about a mile. And they have a fight there as well, a big firefight that goes on for a long time. And in typical Michael Bay fashion, nobody seems to ever run out of ammunition. The bad guys don't seem to hit anything until it's dramatically written in there. Okay, well, this is a true story that it's based on, so we actually have to have somebody get hurt here, somebody get hurt there, with our paces. We want Oscar. We do. They released this in January, so he's going to get one. But, yeah, so it's not really Oscar material anyway. It's a Michael Bay movie. And all consensus, I tend to agree with the critics that sort of liked it. Rotten Tomatoes gave it 59, 60% of a possible 100%. That's good, but not great. Yeah, it's a good Michael Bay movie. It's just I would agree with him. It's a good Michael Bay movie. Is it a good war movie about Benghazi? Maybe not, but it's a good Michael Bay movie. If you like Michael Bay movies, it works. It's not at all anything like The Hurt Locker. The Hurt Locker is messed up. You want to see some gritty realism, watch that. That's some serious shit in that movie. Also, Zero Dark 30, that's some serious shit there, too. But yeah, that's that lady that was Cameron's ex-wife. Directed. Whoever that is. Blanking on who that is, but yeah. And then they're calling for security to back them up and for the military to back them up. and nobody's coming, and they wanted a drone to come in. The drone shows up, but it doesn't do much of anything, and they tell them what's going on in real time. By the time they get anybody out there, the raid has happened and they've left. And another raid starts on that other building, so there's all these raids going on. And it's not because of the video. According to the movie, it's because there was an anti-Muslim video. It's because the locals are jerks and they wanted to just attack it. But that was kind of common knowledge at the time, even. So the movie itself, the Michael Bay movie, pushes all the buttons for that kind of movie. It was a fairly packed house for the showing 2 days after it came out, and I will not give away the ending, so in case you want to go see it. But the ending's pretty obvious. You read about Benghazi and know what happened. The heroes are heroic, and the villains are villainous, and rather faceless. Michael Bay style, of course. Yeah, I could have done without the obvious, added-on sex jokes and stuff in it. I don't mind sex jokes in a movie. Well, Michael Bay loves those, so there's, boner jokes and boob flashlight jokes and some Libyan girls are hot joke, and I don't know about that, but they carry guns, dangerous. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't mess with those girls. If you you don't know. I just wouldn't do that. But yeah, so the Libyan movie, it's okay. It's okay, Michael Bay movie. See it in theaters. You don't need to go to the special showing, just see it regular. And it's not doing as hot as they thought it was over on Fox. It's doing okay at the box office, which means that after probably a week it'll be gone. It was already only on 3 screens at the multiplex, in our area, the 2021. So there's a bunch of other movies came out, but that isn't good if it's already only on, really showing on one theater basically in the back, 3 days out. So yeah, they crammed everyone into the one theater. It's 3 years ago, and 4 years ago now, and 3 years ago. And less than 3 years ago. But 2.5 years. But yeah, Benghazi, the Benghazi movie. Okay, so that's it so far. Okay, firstly and thusly, the Democrats are allegedly to blame for, and Hillary is allegedly to blame for telling everyone and telling Miss Rice that it was a video. That a Muslim video, anti-Muslim video, innocent of Muslims. I saw the trailer, it sucks. Don't go see it, if you ever find it. It is stupid. It's dumb, somehow that caused a riot. This movie, the movie's dumb. Yeah, it didn't. It caused another riot in Cairo, and they just took that footage and put it in Benghazi with the news media. It started with Fox News and MSNBC saying it was a video. Hillary Clinton that very night had fallen down and had been just injured, hit her head. So she wasn't available to go on the news. They treated that as, that was just an excuse. Rice went on the news. They named Rice. She said it was the video that caused the Benghazi attack on the news, because MSNBC and Fox News told her to say that. So she did. Her people did not tell her to say that. The news media did. Now that's a red flag right there. The news media should never have been that much powerful that it should have been able to say that. They're the ones that started the alleged conspiracy. Oh, Hillary lied. It was the video. No, Hillary did not lie, because it all along was the news media giving the CIA and the Pentagon their talking points. That's not good. They should not have been giving them their talking points. Now there's a discrepancy in 13 Hours the book. Discrepancy in 13 Hours the book and in the other accounts during the Benghazi hearings, which cost 14 million taxpayer dollars. The Republicans trying to figure out the Benghazi hearings to figure out what happened. They spent a lot of time in the House and the Senate going over this. I listened to 2 of those hearings, not all 4, and some of the talking points from some of them. It seems that there was actually a riot. It seems that 2 of the people that were eyewitnesses that escaped the main compound said that yes, there was a riot attacking the compound, and it had nothing to do with video. So there was actually a riot. There were 50 people attacking the compound. Between 30, somebody said 30, somebody said 50. And actually the Michael Bay movie does show about 50 people attacking it a little bit later on. Not as a riot, but just sort of streaming in and going and attacking it. So Michael Bay actually gets part of that right in the movie and vindicates the other story, which is interesting. Yeah, so he does. So yeah, there was something going on. Something was going down. It wasn't because of the video, but something was going down. And since they didn't have footage of that something going down, because nobody was on the scene with cameras, I'll go into that in a minute, that's why they used the footage from the video riot. So on the news, they didn't have any footage. So they grabbed the Cairo footage and put it in there. And for some reason, everyone believed it. Said, oh look, there's a protest over there. They should not have done that. Yeah. It is curious to note that they kept calling this consulate, and I remember in 2012 when this happened, it was only 3 years ago. September. Last September it would be 2 years ago. And that was 2012. And they kept saying embassy over and over again because Ambassador Stevens was there. It was never an embassy. What was going on in Benghazi, Libya, was that it was screwed up there. After Gaddafi was killed, the gangs took over. It was the tribes running around, being insane, and ISIS was growing over there at the corner, stuff like that. And the failed state was completely a mess. The embassy was basically screwed. So the ambassador fled to around town until he got to the consulate. So apparently the embassy wasn't actually attacked. They just closed it for whatever reason and sent him to the consulate. Probably because they couldn't maintain it. More on that later. So it was a consulate. Now, a consulate is like a government building, basically. Government building. The CIA spook house, which was down the street, the base, down the block, about a mile, that was, they weren't supposed to tell where that was. It was a secret. That base is a secret. Nobody was supposed to know about that base. Part of the reason why there wasn't a security is nobody knew about it. Nobody's supposed to know about it. It's secret. Nar. Okay, we'll go right into this right now. The lax insecurity in Libya, in general, or a lot of other failing states, failed to put democracy there. Yeah, it wasn't going to work. It turns out that the lax insecurity was not caused by the Obama administration. It turns out that the people that took away the security from those lesser states that were falling weren't Democrats. Turns out, unfortunately, they were Republicans. Apparently, there were some congressmen and senators that decided, oh, we need to cut the funding for these extra expenditures of these people over there in the countries. And some of the Democrat ones said, no, wait, if you do that, security will be laxed over there. So actually, they're saying there wasn't enough security in Benghazi in their supposed conspiracy, when in fact they made it no security in Benghazi. Had they not taken away the money, then there would have been security there. So they're like, ooh, see, you guys didn't have enough security. Well, we kind of didn't give you any. But no, you don't have enough security over there. It would be like running a building and going, okay, our store has been robbed. Well, but the boss above next door who runs the company, he decided not to hire any guards. It's kind of like that. So it's like, well, of course it failed. Now my article back there on the Benghazi, back in 2014. But yeah, it's possible that the reason that Rice and Clinton said at first it was a video was a blind to hide the fact that there wasn't enough security and that it was a CIA spook house that got attacked. They couldn't say it was a spook house. everyone in the media would have been asking, well, what was the CIA doing there? So, yeah. We don't know what they were doing there. No one's actually saying. In fact, these guys that wrote that book, they shouldn't be saying either. I mean, if they really were, like, official... I'm not saying they weren't. I'm just saying it seems awfully peculiar. They're saying, like, details, intimate details, about a covert operations base that was attacked. You're not supposed to talk about that. You're just not. Just saying. That's what they say in all the movies and stuff. Granted, I'm not in the Secret Service, obviously. But I know from movies and such. I know that even my late father, who was a World War II veteran, he did not talk about his missions. He did not talk about even military screw-ups until he was like in his 80s, and it didn't matter anymore. So he was all like, well, I'll tell you about some of the things the government did, like when they lost me once, whatever. But he didn't want to tell us that until he was about 81 years old. He waited a long time to even mention it. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting story. You know, get lost on an island. But it's like, yeah. So yeah. When you're actually, I guess when you're actually in the military, I've never been in the military before. I've never served. But I write lots of military science fiction. I write science fiction and stuff like that. I try to make a space navy because I like Star Trek and all that. So I like to make the military stuff make a little sense. And this story, if it was a sci-fi story, wouldn't make sense. Or a military story, kind of wouldn't make sense. It's like, how come these guys are allowed to talk? And therein lies the oddity of the stand-down order that allegedly they'd been given by their boss. It makes more sense in the Michael Bay movie, in that they made their boss kind of a douche in the movie. So they're like, okay, this guy's a douche, so he just told him not to go over there. Oh. And they did throw in a line that I threw in my review there. Also saying, well, maybe he just didn't want them to get hurt, because they weren't really the main security people. So he's like preventing them from going in. But no, he was just being douchey in the movie. But through all of the hearings, of which these guys were not part of, actually, the guys that wrote 13 Hours, I think maybe one of them was. But yeah, it's funny that they weren't there. Interesting. Just saying. Yeah, that it's funny. It's strange. That kind of funny. That there was a stand-down order that everyone else in the top brass and the guy included that they brought back, even him said, I never said that. I'm not going to say stand down. It's stupid. They're a security force. They're supposed to go in. Never said that. The top general was General Ham, who later sent the men in to get them out the next morning. Took forever for him to get there. But that's just bad organization. Even he said, no stand-down order. No, it wasn't a stand-down order. So I think if the general says there's no stand-down order, even if there was one, there's no stand-down order. The consensus of the riot, the rioting, and not the story. The idea that somehow a video sparked a riot doesn't seem that far-fetched, because the Libyans who were bad guys, there were good guys and bad guys. The bad guy ones wanted an excuse to do some heavy shit. They wanted an excuse to be a gang and go blow up some American building. Why not? Because they're bad guys. Because some of them are bad guys, and they wanted to blow up a building. So they did. So they attacked the building. So that is not in question. And it certainly isn't in question what then Secretary of State Clinton did. Because if she was injured, then she was out of the picture, and she left Rice in command. Second officer or whatever. But it's like that they also seem to indicate that somehow they could have gotten more security out there, could have brought in some F-16s or whatever, or brought in some ship or some extra forces earlier. But the Fox people, and many of them, fail to realize is that if there was nothing in place, if the infrastructure had been gutted when Gaddafi was killed and everybody left, then nobody should have been there. They all should have left. So, what are they doing there? But also, like okay, you have But yeah, I mean, you're done. You have nothing more. But the idea that somehow they had real time video, like it was something out of a Michael Bay movie, ironically, or something out of a James Bond movie, where it's like, ooh, well, we have this satellite comm thing, we can just beam over there and talk to them immediately with the internet, and it'll be instantaneous, and they'll know everything, and they can send in. Well, even if they have the internet and they can send in a message and it's instantaneous, scrambling a bunch of guys from Italy or something, or scrambling some guys from Tripoli, even Tripoli, which was about 30, maybe 14, 15 hours away, by apparently it's across their country. There was just no way they could have, got permission and scrambled the fighters and gotten in there at all under those circumstances. So yeah, military snafu, incompetence, whatever. But it's like I don't think they could have done it better. It's like it's hindsight, and they're always saying like, well, 2020 hindsight, but that's not a conspiracy. That's just the military wasn't as awesome as you thought it was, and wasn't as capable as you thought it was, because you've seen a lot of movies, and you're like, oh, isn't it like that? And they can just fly out a plane, and the next frame, the plane is there. Like, no. The only planes quick enough to do that would be stealth bombers, and they didn't have those. And that would have to have an aircraft carrier nearby or something. Yeah, they weren't doing that so much anymore. Under the Obama administration, they had drones and things. They didn't have fighters on so much, and carriers out on the Mediterranean and stuff. Had they still been in the Persian Gulf and there was a carrier, then they would have immediately launched some planes out there, and I guess they would have bombed them, but that wouldn't have helped. I mean, they would have got the wrong people. They wouldn't have known, or maybe. But it was not a conspiracy because there isn't one, and Benghazi was just a mess. So, yeah. And Michael Bay's version is actually not partisan, and he just goes into it. So there you go. There's my take on that. Let me see if there's anything else. So, alright, so, yeah. That's all I got on the Benghazi. The books. I guess 13 hours was more accurate than the other one. I would still be curious. I'm not military, I've said that before, or not CIA either. But it's curious that, I would be 4F. Yeah. My eyesight and several disabilities would definitely keep me out. So I'm not saying I'm in the military training, I've studied it, read about it. On a theoretical basis, if I wasn't, I wouldn't have been a Marine anyway. I would have been in the Air Force, like my dad was. I would have been in the Army Air Corps, I would have been in the Air Force, and I would have been a contractor. If that's a theoretical. I probably would have been in the original Desert Storm back in the 1990s, and then that would have sucked, and I would have just not wanted to be there anymore. So yeah, that would have been Kuwait. But no, none of that actually happened to me. No. I was 4F. They were recruiting back then. And they looked at my records and said, no, you don't need to do it. We don't want, you're 4F. So yeah, you don't need to serve. Yeah. And even when they started the semi-draft for the new one, no, you don't need to. They looked at it again. Then the new one started, the Iraq War. Nope. So, okay. Not even a desk job? No, we don't. That's okay. Okay. I didn't argue with them. Yeah, and you tell them Asperger's, autism syndrome, and which I have, and mild cerebral palsy and that kind of thing. They don't necessarily want that because, would you be able to handle like a massive crisis situation in combat? Probably not. You're right about it. Yeah. I would try. Yeah. My shooting's not that good either. It's okay, but it's not that good. But yeah, so yeah. So this is not coming from any military experts. This is coming from a science fiction writer who watches a lot of war movies. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. This is not in any way, but I have looked up and researched it as a citizen journalist, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, so I haven't been in any wars or anything like that, or correspondence or anything. I wouldn't do that. No. Some uber patriotic people I knew of at the church were like, "No, how can you say that?" Oh, during the big Iraq thing, I was like, "What? But it would be bad if I was a soldier. I wouldn't be good at it." Yeah, I don't want to mess it up. I would be like one of those inept guys that didn't have security or whatever. They didn't want me to go to look. No. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, so there you go. Benghazi, was it a scandal? No. It was incompetence. It was a failure of all forces to get together, and even if they had, they would have been a day away, or hours away, and it wouldn't have worked anyway. After all, we weren't invading Libya. We had just we somehow arranged for stuff to happen. Yeah, we weren't invading Libya, so yeah. Anyway, we weren't. And now the bad guys have Libya. So, yeah, the bad guys. Or some of it. Some of Libya. The protest over the video is actually in Egypt, in Cairo. Around the same time. It's no wonder they mixed them up. They're always doing that when they do protests on Fox. They're always crossing them together. Like taking Glenn Beck rally and making it look like it's the Trump rally. It's like, what? I'm related. But yeah. So there you go. The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. And the talking points afterward. Together.